was diagnosed with OCD and generalized anxiety disorder at a very young age. I was a kid and I didn't understand what my diagnosis meant, of course, and I was simply a sensitive and a little anxious child. That was all I knew. By the time I went to high school, my symptoms got worse, and I was like, what is happening? And when I asked my mom about if my doctor had diagnosed me with anything in the past, she said OCD, and everything made sense after that. To summarize, OCD is what is called Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder. Obsessions are the things going on in your mind. That's why you cannot say if anyone has OCD or not. And the compulsions part is your habits, your rituals related to OCD, just like reorganizing things, watching your hands, tapping the door, saying things out loud. These are what's called compulsions. Some people only have obsessions, but some people have compulsions and obsessions, like they have both, which is my case too. It's far from being rational. People know that their thoughts and behaviors are irrational, but they just can't stand those uneasy feelings inside them. The overwhelming sense that something bad is going to happen, it's just so hard to ignore that sometimes it leads to panic attacks. People with OCD often think that performing a ritual will keep them safe or keep their loved ones safe. So in order to prevent that bad thing from happening, they keep doing those rituals, and OCD tricks them into doing much more harder tasks. They feel relaxed for a short amount of time when they perform those rituals. Every time they do the rituals, it strengthens the OCD's grip on their life. When I was a kid, I grew up in a community focused heavily on religion and sexual stuff. Sexual, as in they thought sexuality is the biggest sin, so everyone should avoid doing it. For example, I would make constant confessions to my mom when I thought something sexual, or I would bathe multiple times a day to keep myself clean in sense of religion or spiritual sense. Every time I confessed to my mom, I remembered another sin that I did. So it's created an endless cycle. Eventually, after a very long journey, I was able to overcome these thoughts, these obsessions. So the few years after that, where I wasn't constantly worrying about things, were the happiest years of my life. However, in 2029, during the COVID-19 pandemic, I nearly saw my parents die. Like, they were so ill, and it was the start of the pandemic, so no one knew anything about the disease. Everything was more scary. So I was in a very bad mental stage. Thankfully, they got better, and I got better too, but my OCD started to act up because I told myself that I won't let this happen to them ever again, which wasn't my fault at the first place. It wasn't my decision for them to get COVID, it wasn't my responsibility to keep them safe, but I had these thoughts and I couldn't stop it. As you can see, my obsessions shifted from being religious or sexual to contamination fears, and this is one of the tricks of OCD. It constantly changes its disguise. At that time, I started washing my hands constantly, and I sanitized them multiple times even when I wash it. So they started to bleed, like they were bleeding constantly, and it was really hurtful. I avoided touching anything during the day, so I hold my hands like this and I didn't touch anything. And when I accidentally touched something, I started crying or having panic attacks. And it was really hard and painful progress. But after some time, my OCD shifted again from contamination to something about cybersecurity, which was out of nowhere. For the last 2 years, my contamination anxiety has centered around the disease, but I cannot say the disease's name out loud because of my OCD again. So it affected everything. It affected my mental health, of course, it affected my body, my relationships, my academic success, because I couldn't go to school for 2 terms. So, for the last 2 years, I've been suffering from my last OCD crisis, which was the strongest one. My healing journey began when I decided to go back to therapy, and this time I felt like medication was necessary, and my therapist agreed on that. She was very kind. She was specializing on cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one of the most effective therapy way on OCD. And I've been seeing her for 2 years now, and I've been using my medication, but it was really a tiring progress since my last relapse was worse from the previous ones. I used different kind of medications and I used different doses, higher doses, and it was really exhausting. But my boyfriends helped me a lot. My parents helped me a lot too. Like, if it weren't for my boyfriend, I don't think that I would be the same as now. I'm currently in recovery and I've been doing better, though I was recently triggered again, and which was one of the reasons I decided to record myself, because I want to help the others who are like me, and I want to look back to these videos and say myself, see, you were worrying about this, but nothing bad happened and you are still alive and safe. I want to remind myself that OCD is just a trick, basically. I also want to share some tips that have helped me. These might not work for everyone, but I think it is worth trying and I'm sure that it will help some people. One tool that helped me was creating an OCD ladder. You can apply these ladder to social anxiety or different kind of phobias as well. Here's how it works. Let's say touching certain things are triggering for me. For example, my socks, my shoes, and let's say the bathroom door. I will order these. Ask yourself how much each thing scares you and note the percentage. For example, for me, touching my socks is 20%, touching the bathroom door is 70%, and touching the kitchen door is 50%. I will start with the least scary one. This is the bottom step of our ladder. If even that feels too overwhelming, break it into more steps. For example, first touch your socks while wearing gloves, and then sanitize your hands. Then touch your socks without gloves and sanitize your hands, and then watch them without even sanitizing your hands. Break this step into smaller steps. As you complete each step, mark your progress and ask yourself again, how scary is this? Trust me, you will see that your fear will lessen. Keep track of your progress, like whether by writing it down on your notebook or notes app on your phone. You just need to write it, because when you feel stuck or discouraged, looking back on how much progress you have made will help you and remind you of how far you've come. It will make a difference. And finally, I want to recommend some books that have helped me and might help you as well. The first book is called Mind Over Body by Dr. Dennis Greenberger and Dr. Christian. It has different forms for you to fill. They are very helpful actually, and it is not just for OCD but for everyone. The second book is called Getting Over OCD. It is by Jonathan Abramowitz. It teaches you to get over OCD with 10 steps. And again, it has different homeworks for you to use, and it is really helpful. And that author has many other books related to OCD, and he also has a book called Exposure Therapy, which might also be helpful. I don't know how many people will see this video, but even if it's just one person, I will be happy to help. And feel free to write your own experience in the comments, and thank you for watching until the end.